My nail teacher told me this one. A very large lady would ask for a Brazilian wax, which includes the ass crack. She already had strong body odor, and when my teacher waxed the ass crack, the wax strip was caked in shit. She just about threw up on the client. Not me. But this happened to a friend of mine. She and her girlfriend decided to get Brazilian waxes together. It was her first Brazilian wax, so she had no frame of reference for how much it was supposed to hurt. First strip. Okay. Few more. Fine. Then one more pull and mega pain. The waxer looked terrified, but then just smiled and just quickly made gestures for her to get dressed and come out front to pay. This happened in South Korea. When she got home, she inspected the area, and the waxer had actually ripped her labia. She had to immediately go to hospital to get stitches to have it repaired. All my friend did was go back to the salon with her hospital bill and demand that they pay it and call the matter settled, which they did. I was a hairstylist and we really only ever did facial waxing and offered to clients as an upsell. A regular client of mine was traumatized by a prior waxing experience with a stylist that was not myself years prior, and declined. Well, the stylist went to wax her brows and dropped a giant clump of wax on her lashes. Then proceeded to take a long time to remove the wax. I think like an hour, with only water and no oil residue remover that would have made the wax slide off instantly. I asked this very question to someone who was waxing me. Their worst is normally hygiene related, like a woman who'd clearly had sex at some point just before the appointment and hadn't cleaned out properly. There are too many. Truly, it can be awful. Most stories have to do with bad hygiene, some with clients' attitudes or actions, and some will just be plain old problems getting the hair off. I haven't had a really bad one in a while. Or maybe I just am not fazed by it anymore. A favorite of mine was the girl who came in for a Brazilian and was shaking from nervousness before we even started. I'll spare you the details, but it took over an hour to finish the service. Usually takes 15 to 30 minutes. 45 is the most it should ever take. And at some point she had a full-on anxiety attack. I was being as gentle as I could considering I was ripping hair out of her body, and after every pull she sat up, cried loudly, and then dropped back onto the bed. She got off the bed still half naked and started pacing back and forth loudly sobbing and hyperventilating. I was trying my best to keep her calm, but honestly, it was all in her head. Getting your hair ripped out always hurts, but her hair should have been an easy service. She let herself panic and the fear got to her. After she left, I sat in the break room, took a deep breath in, and starting sobbing lol. I was so glad to be done with it. She was sweet otherwise. No smell, easy hair to work with. But God, that was the most stressful service of my life. She actually came back a few more times after that, and we finished in 20 minutes. No more incidents. Edit. As much as she struggled to get through it, I want everyone to know that no one was telling her she had to. I asked if she wanted to stop and she said she was pushing herself to do new things despite her high anxiety. No significant other pulling the strings, and I certainly didn't force her to go through with it. Some women do it for other people. Many, I would even say most, women do it for themselves. Well, after reading this thread, you can now call me an anti-waxer. Smells. Finding crusty things and not wiping very well. Story my aunt told me. 2 or 3 layers of skin came off with the hair. It was on a guy's genitals and there was a lot of blood and yelling. Client story. Went to a waxing studio I had never been to before and got a Brazilian done. The lady did this with beeswax, I think, which you just put on the skin. It dries quickly and you pull it off without a cloth paper. You have to apply it at a certain thickness for it to work. The lady begins, and at first, everything is going well. She works her way to the more private areas, but I can tell she works pretty hard. I have strong hair and this was after 2 to 3 months of growing. When she gets to the labia, The problems begin. She can't seem to rip the hair off. Her solution is to apply more wax on top, but still no budging. More wax is applied and she starts slightly spreading it out too. So I am now covered in warm, thick wax almost everywhere, which feels a little like wearing a small harness. I get a little scared and just hope that she knows what she's doing. She, however, chooses this moment to inform me that it's possible to rip off skin as well and to kind of scold me for having thick hair. Incredible people skills. So comforting. Luckily, she somehow managed to get it off. Never going back there though. A new client came in right after having sex and leaked all over the bed, and she wanted me to finish the job, so cleaned herself right in front of me, completely nonchalantly. I couldn't look her in the eyes. And another one. But service wasn't rendered. I was 18, working at my first salon, alone. It was this huge place in a really good area, but knew so business was slow. This guy steps in, wearing a super nice suit, and asks for a back wax. I have him step into the wax room, ask him to remove his coat and shirt and lay down facing down. I go to grab some towels as extra precaution to lay over his butt so his pants aren't ruined. Come back to see him naked, and he's asking for a Brazilian wax. Caught off guard. I just kind of stand there before realizing what a situation I'm in. I have no experience in that, and it's not a service we provide for men. I try to explain that to him and ask him to dress, and he tells me it's not a hard thing to learn. To practice on him, monsieur. At this point I'm freaking out. I still have an advantage point of running out the front door as he's butt naked and we had 2 security guards for the plaza. But the situation kind of locks my legs together. I don't even remember how, but he eventually listens and dresses and leaves. It kind of taught me about the risk of working alone in a building where I'd need to take clients into a room in the back. I made friends with the security guard that day and got his number in case I ever did need him to step in. I literally got waxed today. I'm reading through all of these hoping I'm not the one being talked about. Carmen, if you're reading this, I hope I'm not one of your horror stories. In high school I had a friend who was smart but lazy. To get him motivated to get better grades, my friends and I made a bet. If he didn't meet a certain average, then I'd get to wax his armpits. If I didn't make that same average, I'd have to do 50 push-ups on the cafeteria table. He didn't make the average, so I had a pool party at my house with my friends and him, and we all gathered around to watch me wax his armpits. He was lying on his back on the family room ottoman and I was sitting beside him, leaning forward to do it all. We also recorded it on video. He spent the entire week hiding from his bigoted dad cause he was scared he'd get in trouble for having incredibly smooth armpits. Fast forward to a few months after, when I had a school project that involved making a video. So I took the camera to my teacher to show it to her. This camera shows the history of most recent videos. So since the waxing video was the only video before my project, she saw the thumbnail of me leaning over my friend, lying on the ottoman. But you can't see what I'm doing with my hands after freezing and seeing the confusion on her face. I tried to quickly explain, my friend lost a bet so I had to wax his armpits. I stuttered and struggled a lot with that. I don't think she believed me. That little thumbnail honestly looked like the intro to very shitty amateur porn. I still got an A on my project though. I also never had to do push-ups in the cafeteria. Not a waxer, but one time my sister called me crying after an eyebrow wax because the wax was too hot and they ended up burning her skin and ripping it off. She had to walk around for a couple weeks with the red burns around her eyebrows. It was the first time she ever had her eyes waxed before too, so didn't know what to expect. Needless to say, she never got them waxed again after that. She started to get them threaded. I'm not the esthetician. I was the person who was being waxed. I have a reaction to extreme pain where I laugh. The esthetician said it was better than swearing or yelling at her. but I can only imagine the conversation she had with her coworkers after I left. A waxer once told me that she had accidentally waxed a girl's tampon straight out of her pussy. The string must have got caught in the wax. Neither of them said anything for the next 30 minutes. First comment on Reddit ever, by the way. Glad it was this, not me, but the stylist who waxes me. She told me she had a girl come in with a tampon. Normally, most of stylists are okay with that, but they will ask you to hold it to one side or the other while they're doing the waxing. This girl let go of the tampon string before the stylist ripped off the wax, and the tampon ended up smack against the wall. Due to the impact of the tampon, blood was splattered in multiple places on the wall. Apparently they had to repaint it. She says they both laughed like crazy about it, and, to her credit, the girl offered to pay for the wall to be repainted. Not a waxer, but an eyelash technician. One time I had a client come in with crabs in her eyelashes, which was obviously the worst thing I've ever seen. Frequently people come in for fills and haven't bothered to clean their eyes for 3 weeks, thinking it will make the extension stay on longer, resulting in a nice layer of yellow crusties all along the lash line. My sister was an esthetician and refused to do loss, lips and assholes because of issues with people's hygiene and how gross it could be. Her coworkers gladly did them though. Better tippers. In general, when you're waxing their asshole and don't hurt them too bad, lol. Sometimes people come in and they're super sweaty, and it's hard for the wax to stick to sweaty skin. So, usually, they just pat some baby powder on them and problem solved. One day a younger woman came in. She was super sweaty, so the esthetician decides to haul out the baby powder, dabs some on, and turn to get the pot of wax to do the job. I should mention the woman getting the wax was on all fours on the table, as they usually are. So, esthetician turns to get the wax. Woman on the table lets out a fart. Just a little slip, but still, baby powder went everywhere, all over the table, all over the esthetician, and was hanging in the air. I asked if the girl was embarrassed, and my sister said that apparently she just played it off like she didn't drop a bomb. But the baby powder evidence told the truth. Plus, it reeked. But the esthetician was a total pro and didn't even faze her. That would have been the end of my waxing career, lol. So I didn't know my skin was insanely sensitive. I went and got the whole kit and caboodle. Brazilian. The lady even did the inside of my ass cheeks a bit. Well, turns out I'm more sensitive than I thought I was. And the severe itching and enormous rash that followed was catastrophic. I was so itchy and so miserable. I got it done because I had an Indiana Dunes trip coming up and my boyfriend said, "That'd be so hot." It was not hot. I was wrecked. I did not enjoy the dunes. It felt like someone rubbed poison ivy all over my vag and ass and inner thighs. No matter how much aloe vera, cocoa butter and ointments I costed it with, it was a nightmare for like a week before I started seeing results. So the week was spent with horrible tossing and turning, sleep followed by me waking trying to itch. Going to the bathroom sucked. Hot showers sucked. Cold showers sucked. Everything about it sucked. One of the 100 creams I used gave me a UTI. It was a nightmare inside a nightmare. Oi. I got my eyebrows waxed after being off Accutane for like a month. Thought it would be fine. She ripped my skin off but for some reason kept going. I had red skin all along my eyebrows. She didn't even do a good job shaping them. Lol. First time getting waxed I was maybe 16. And I was about to leave for a few weeks to be a summer camp counselor. I had my legs, armpit, and bikini line done. I wasn't too worried going into the appointment because I knew I had a high pain tolerance. The room I was in was hot to start, and after we started the process I started sweating and the paper lining was sticking to me. It was incredibly painful, but I didn't know any better, so I decided to just tough it out. Afterwards I bled out of every pore she waxed. I got blood on all the clothing I was wearing. My legs looked like tiny minefields. I came out of the back to my mom in the waiting room and I was holding back tears. It hurt so bad. Needless to say, I never went back. And the next few weeks at camp were spent nursing the scabs and sensitive skin. Not so much a funny one, but a bit of a story nonetheless. A regular client of mine that I had been seeing for about half a year came in for her Brazilian wax. Everything is going fine as normal, and then I get to the labia, and as I'm spreading the wax I notice a golf ball-sized lump deep under her skin. I remove the wax and investigate a bit. Not an eye-grown hair. Nothing surface-related. I let her know and she tells me she'll see her doctor ASAP. I never saw her again. Still wonder if it's something serious. On a funnier note, had a woman come in for a Brazilian who clearly hadn't done any maintenance in a long time. I remove the towel that's covering her lady bits for privacy while we enter and leave the room, and I actually out loud said, "Whoa. Hair had to have been almost 4 inches long." Not my most professional moment. Client laughed though. This was waxing myself, not others. But once I tripped while carrying a hot jar of wax. I was naked as I was about to wax my muffin. Just got a new sofa. In the split second of tripping, for some mystifying reason, I decided that instead of letting the wax get on the new sofa, I'd put my body under the spillage. I ended up with scalding hot wax stuck to my stomach area. It burned me, and as I have a pretty deep belly button, took a while to cool. I couldn't move in this period as I didn't want to spill the wax more. When it had cooled, I had to spend 2 hours slowly detaching the wax from my burned skin and tiny stomach hairs that it had welded to. I was half laughing at my stupidity and half crying at the pain. My mom called during and couldn't stop laughing at me. I wax my own eyebrows, mustache at home. Recently, I decided on a whim I wanted to wax off the tail of my eyebrow entirely to make drawing them on easier. I put the wax on, pressed the waxing cloth to it, ripped, and nothing came off. The wax would not stick to the cloth like it usually does. I had to pull the wax off with my fingers, little by little, with each hair of my eyebrow being pulled out individually. Don't be me.